That night, after taking a shower, Wendy only put on a bath towel and knocked on the door of Fredman Wilson's room opposite. This night, she did not come out of Fredman Wilson's guest room again. The next morning, when the red-faced Fredman Wilson walked downstairs with Wendy, Noah Wilson and his wife Horia's faces were a little ugly, but more embarrassing. Fredman Wilson also saw that the couple might not be satisfied with the relationship between him and Wendy, so he said almost without hesitation, "I have decided to invest $80 million in the Wilson family to help it rebuild the industry. To show my sincerity, I will pay $10 million to the Wilson Group's account today, and the remaining $70 million will be paid within 1 month." As soon as these words came out, the entire Wilson family suddenly became excited. Noah Wilson and his wife did not have any embarrassment or discomfort and immediately treated Fredman Wilson respectfully as a guest. Old Mrs. Wilson was naturally too excited and immediately announced that after the $10 million arrived, the Wilson Group would re-operate, with Wendy as the director. For the Wilson family, they swept away all the previous haze at this moment, and they almost bought a pair of firecrackers and celebrated presumptuously. Fredman Wilson took out his own expression while accepting the compliments from the Wilson family. He asked the company's finance company to immediately fund the Wilson Group with $10 million so that the Wilson Group can temporarily get rid of the financial chain break. At the same time, personally transferred $5 million to Wendy as pocket money for her. Wendy went all out to serve him last night, and it really made him so satisfied. Fredman Wilson, who was in his 50s, hadn't experienced this stimulating passion for a long time. It was Wendy that made him feel young again. So, after one night, he loved Wendy very much and even thought of keeping her as a concubine for a long time. Therefore, after giving the money, he said to Mrs. Wilson and Mr. and Mrs. Noah at the dinner table, "Old Madam, Mr. Noah, younger brothers and sisters, I have a gratuitous request, and please agree to it." The Lady Wilson was trembling with excitement a long time ago. At this time, she naturally said with joy, "Oh, Fredman, they are all in the same family. Don't say anything about 2 families. Just mention what you want. You are the elder of the Wilson family. Benefactor, your request, the Wilson family dare not follow your request." Fredman Wilson glanced at Wendy, and said, "I and Wendy are also in agreement. Although the age gap is a bit big, true love is always regardless of age limit. So I hope that you can agree to let Wendy be my lover. I will definitely help the Wilson family with all my strength, and at the same time will do my best to treat Wendy well." Although Wendy was somewhat resistant to the old master Fredman Wilson in her heart, she did not have any resistance to his money. After receiving $5 million and hearing this, she was naturally happy. As long as she held Fredman Wilson's thigh tightly, she would be able to do so in the future. And when the old Mrs. Wilson heard this, she was very excited and agreed on the spot, saying, "Fredman Wilson, since you and Wendy are in agreement, then the Lady Wilson, I naturally raised my hands in favor of you being together." Although Noah Wilson was somewhat unacceptable, he was relieved when he thought that the Wilson family would board a big boat in the future, and said, "You can decide these things by yourself. We have no opinion." Horia said with a little dissatisfaction, "Fredman Wilson, I heard that you have a family. Our Wendy is not yet married. If things with you spread out, how can we behave in the future?" Fredman Wilson said immediately, "Don't worry, younger brothers and sisters, when the time is right in the future, and I will surely marry Wendy." Upon hearing this, the whole family was very excited. Marry Wendy? Then, isn't the Wilson family going to the listed group? This is really great. In order to show his sincerity, Fredman Wilson said, "In fact, everyone does not know that I also have a lot of business in Nongguang province. Moreover, I am the chairman of Nongguang Chamber of Commerce. In the future, I will definitely be able to help the Wilson family in many ways. It will definitely make the Wilson family a top family in Orus Hill." As soon as this was said, the Wilson family cried with joy. Wendy held Fredman Wilson's waist and cried constantly in front of her grandparents and parents. She felt that she finally had a chance to rise. Fredman Wilson said at this time, "By the way, there will be a decoration industry summit in Orus Hill in 2 days. I also received an invitation. Then you will come with me. I will solemnly introduce the Wilson Group to everyone and announce my decision to invest in the Wilson Group." Wendy asked numbly, "Fredman, how can you introduce our relationship to others?" Fredman Wilson smiled and said, "For the time being, I will give you a grievance. I will say that I am your uncle. When the time is right to turn back, I will be married to you after my divorce with Lianpo." Wendy was overjoyed and whispered, "Fredman, that's really great. I want to stay together with you and grow old with you." Fredman Wilson touched her smooth hand and said emotionally, "Don't worry, my dear, we will definitely stay together forever." There was no rush to announce the resurgence of the Wilson family, so Charlie didn't know this variable. In the past few days, he is running between home and the hospital, taking care of the old master who is in the hospital. The old man is no longer a serious problem, just rest in the hospital for a few days and recover well.